Hello everyone, and welcome to this session. We're going to cover in this one CRM in lockdown. So we'll be talking about how we are currently implementing a CRM remotely. So my name is Martha Haller. I'm the Data and Compliance Manager at FutureWorks in Manchester, and I'm also a SHROC committee member as the Deputy Treasurer and the Alternative Provider Representative. I'm going to be joined today by Dom. He is the founder and managing director of CRM, Student CRM, and we'll be coming to him after I've gone through the initial slides and just going over things from a supplier perspective. And there will be time at the end, hopefully, for some questions. So just pop anything you want to ask in the Q&A as we go along. So to give you a bit of background about FutureWorks, we are a smaller provider and we focus exclusively on creative media. We're based in Manchester and we have just 9 undergraduate programs and currently no postgraduate, and we have around about 400 students. Our first intake was in 2007, so we're still relatively new compared to most providers. And what I think has made this implementation different from what you might expect in a larger university is certainly on the terms of the number of staff available for working on this project. We don't actually have a marketing team dedicated to that. Data, it's just me. I do everything data for the entire organisation. And we've got 1 IT member of staff as well. And although I have had some experience of software installation projects in previous lives at other institutions, I've certainly never run an entire project before this, and so we've got very little experience of that sort of work within the organisation. What we realised, I joined FutureWorks 3 years ago, and I very quickly realised that what we had in the way of CRM wasn't really suitable for purpose. We've been using Highrise for quite a few years, and although it was initially introduced to capture information about applicants and potential applicants, it's expanded beyond its original purpose. So we've actually now got a lot of actual student data in there, and it gets a lot of general use across all of the whole student life cycle. And we wanted to be able to split out our application and inquiry data and make that a little bit easier to manage. We've also spent the last 18 months using social media a lot more. We've been improving our open day communications. In particular, obviously since lockdown, we've had to go all online, so we've been using Discord. And we've done a lot of updates to our website. With having everything in Highrise, we found that there's been some issues in terms of losing potential applicant data, and we're not always capturing the data effectively and ensuring we keep those potential students engaged in what we're doing. We're also aware that the spreadsheets and the SharePoint lists that we've got for specific other purposes weren't always getting into Highrise, so there was some either duplication or just differences in that data. So we knew we needed to put everything in one place. We also wanted to have a look at how we can actually make our marketing tactics better, find out what works. And ultimately, we wanted to be able to increase student recruitment, which I guess is the aim of most CRM projects. There weren't a huge number of options on the market that were suitable for a small provider, although we did do quite a bit of research. We wanted to have something we could afford, that was easy to implement, particularly given the fact that we don't have a lot of staff able to work on this. We also needed it to be easy to use for people who aren't necessarily proficient with marketing software, who aren't used to a CRM. We got down to a short list of 3, 2 of which were specifically catered for the higher education market, and one was a mass market option that would have taken quite a lot of adaptation. So we looked at the demos, did it all online. We had demos from the two HE suppliers, and then the mass market one we actually just reviewed internally. It wasn't a company that could come and do a visit or talk to us about it. So we did all that on Teams and Zoom meetings, got our key decision makers involved, and the decision was based on one that most met our requirements, as well as that more nebulous idea of being a good fit with the culture of FutureWorks. So pre-project preparation, we have a core project team, which is myself, the facilities manager who's acting as the project manager, and we have two sponsors, our principal and our finance director. So we got started on creating the project documentation, all the stuff you'd normally expect. What we were able to do, which was a bit different for me, was to create a SharePoint site to hold all this documentation. And we were then able to take some of those documents that the project manager had written and convert them into web pages and SharePoint lists, which we felt would make them easier to read, easier to engage with, and a bit more user-friendly. And it also meant we could embed things like videos in the SharePoint pages, so to try and really bring together everything in one place and become a really good resource for people to use throughout the life of the project. So to give you a rough idea of what that looks like, this is a screenshot of the front page of our project SharePoint site. And we were quite pleased with just the way that it looks and the way that it works. We're able to put in quite a bit of information, but lay it out in a way that isn't just a long Word document or PDF doing the rounds. Unfortunately, we were hoping to be a little bit further on with this project currently than we are. Certainly when I put in this session proposal, I was hoping to be a little bit further down the line on this, but inevitably, as with the last 12 months, there was some factors that caused a delay. Partly to do with reopening our building and doing all the COVID testing, but it meant that we had to push the timeline down a little bit. So we've reworked the project timeline. What we have found difficult is keeping that motivation and enthusiasm for the project. So given the uncertainty around exactly the start date and everyone being really busy and wondering if it's going to happen. So ensuring that motivation stays up and that we keep people engaged has been a challenge. What I have been able to do is continue working on some of the project support elements. So I've been trying to write draft emails and put more documentation in and really refine the project as far as I could while we're waiting for the factors causing the delay to abate somewhat. So pre-project preparation, what we're going to be doing is making sure staff have access to the SharePoint site. Really importantly that they know their role on that project. Particularly in a smaller provider, no one is doing this as their full-time job. Everyone is doing business as usual at the same time. So they really need to understand what their role is so that they can actually then start to plan their own weekly schedule and when they're going to be needed on the project. We're also going to be looking at the timeline, checking for any known items. I'm very aware that exam boards are going to be coming up probably mid-project, so that'll have to be taken into account. And then starting those meetings between Student CRM and ourselves to make sure everybody gets to know each other. So I asked Student CRM to give me an example of what a typical week might look like on the project. And apologies, there's quite a lot of text there. I won't read it all. But essentially, there is a lot of flexibility in terms of getting people started out at the beginning of the week, getting them trained on how to work with the system, how do we want to change things so that to make it personalised to us, and then reviewing everything at the end. The idea being then you've at the end of the week, you've finished that section of the app, and then you start using it. We really like this approach. It was one of the key factors in terms of choosing this software, because we want to get up and running as soon as possible. We're doing this mid-cycle. We want to start pushing out those communications as soon as we can. So the idea of being able to actually start using the system even while you're implementing it was a really attractive part of the proposal. Just to give an idea on the project timeline, this is an example timeline. The idea is it's around about 12 weeks, depending on which apps you decide you want to go for. But there is a lot of flexibility in this, and we like the fact that it's really clear up front what bits will what the sequence is of everything. So, for example, when we're starting to look at the social media side of things, we know exactly when we'll need to pull in our social media apprentice. Certainly, it looks a lot different to some of the project in timelines I've been used to at other universities. 12 weeks sounds very, very nice. So one of the things I wanted to bring out in this session is around the challenges of remote project working. Obviously, we've all had to come to grips in lockdown with how we work remotely. I think projects can be, in a way, a little bit harder because there's more things you've got to make sure of as part of your normal project planning process. One of which we found is that the less social aspects. So in Future Works, we all know each other really well. So the internal meetings, they're fine. But building that rapport with some people or external people that you don't really know can be more difficult. You can't bring them around to your building, give them a tour, sit and have lunch with them. It's in meetings, so it's very different. Process mapping sessions are much harder to conduct. I'm a big fan of getting everybody in a room, post-it notes, drawing things on charts, and actually really trying to build something, get everyone involved in constructing what your process wants to be. Doing it on Teams, where you're sharing a screen and working in sort of a diagram maker software, does not have quite the same feel to it. It's a lot harder, I think. The other thing we found is it's a lot harder to communicate project news. Pre-lockdown, if I got a bit of good news, I could run around the entire building and tell everybody very quickly, run into their offices and tell them the great news. I can't do that now. So we're having to think hard about how can we communicate that news to everybody, but not just have it as a stream of emails, because everyone's getting too many of those as it is. We've also tried to be careful with documentation. We want people to be able to work collaboratively, not emailing documents around, having trouble with version control. So that again is a change of culture, because we're so used to just emailing documents around, and changing to a collaborative work style is quite difficult. And for me, one of the really hard things is, how do you celebrate the cool stuff happening? You can't, well, currently we can't go down to the pub, we can't go for lunch, we can't even just have a slice of cake together in the office. So if anyone's got any ideas about how they celebrate key milestones, pop them in the comments. That would be great to hear some ideas. And then project identity as well. This was around my thinking that certainly in Future Works, when I'm in meetings about this project, it's quite often with people that I'm in every other meeting with. So having that identity for the project can be quite difficult if you can't quite remember what's this meeting about. You don't have any physical cues as to the room you're in, or the documentation you got with you. It is just another Teams meeting. But it's not all bad. There's been plenty of good stuff coming out of this. We've certainly found that there's no time wasted in getting to meetings, no train bookings, nothing like that. And also that people are more likely to attend the meetings and actually have all the documentation to hand if they're using the technology. Teams, we use Teams on site. Although it's not perfect, it has made things relatively painless for collaboration and file sharing. We can keep everything in one place. And I also like the fact that some bits, if you plan things properly, you can make things a bit more automated. You can record your meetings so that people can catch up. You can put the notes from a meeting in one place. You can set up things so that if you update a thing on a SharePoint list, it will automatically email people about that update. There's an awful lot of stuff you can do in automation with these tools now, which has been really good to learn. And because we're all currently working from home, and we all have cameras, we all have Teams, we all have decent hardware, so arranging ad hoc meetings, especially with external, like the supplier or anyone else, it's a lot easier. We'll probably need to review this once we start going back into the office, because I certainly don't have a camera in my office computer, but it's certainly been a big bonus of working remotely. So although we're only part way through this process of the project, there is some things already that I've thought about that we're going to do going forward that I've learned. First one is actually document that this new process that we've been doing for project management, because we want other people in future works to do it this way, because it seems to be working really well. I also want to involve the full project team a bit earlier. I think that partly because of distractions with COVID and everything else, there was some delays in actually getting people involved, so I definitely want to do that a bit earlier next time. And the other thing I want to do is look at what other tools can we use with Microsoft 365 to help manage the project. We've been using the basics in Teams and SharePoint, but I really do want to look at what else we can use to communicate with people and maybe automate some of the more routine things of managing a project. So that is where we're up to currently and what I think have been the challenges and benefits. What I want to do now is get the supplier perspective. So Dom has very kindly joined me for this session, and what we thought we would do is I would ask him a few questions and get his perspective on it. So Dom, welcome.
Hi Martha, thank you very much.
So the first question is, how well does remote working fit in with a CRM implementation project?
Okay, well, from a supplier's perspective, we found it actually suits us rather well. This was surprising, but the remote working, I think what it's done by removing the logistical variables of traditional sort of on-campus face-to-face meetings, we found that's great to get those out of the way. So traditionally, before we would arrive in the room to have a meeting with you on campus, we would have to go through travel delays, the issuing of parking permits, registering upon arrival at your reception. You would then come down to the reception and pick us up and walk us back to the meeting room, which for some reason the planners of all universities seem to put reception at one end of the campus or building and the audiovisual about 3 miles that way. So it's a long walk to the room. Then when we get there, there's another 3 or 4 minutes plugging laptops in to non-existent ports. Everyone's got a brand new system that they haven't used before. So then you've got Wi-Fi access, IT creating access code. So when you add all of these practical considerations up, logistics, sometimes on a bad day, it can actually account for 1/4 of the allocated time. And so for us, we start on time, we finish on time, we use all the time remotely for its intended purpose. So we love the way that remote working removes all of the logistics. It eliminates that. You're either in the meeting and you're not. And the biggest problem we have is when people say, turn your mic on, Dom. That's it. That's the toughest thing.
That's great. Yes, there's certainly the travelling and the trying to get booking tickets and everything, I do not miss that. Do you think remote working will continue for these types of projects?
Well, I really do hope so. So from my perspective, that reducing the travel times and the challenge is a big win. And because that saves time and costs sort of throughout the project. So we've got some big benefits. And I think even though when implementing Student CRM remotely, we've got small challenges. For example, we don't have that face-to-face non-verbal communications clues within the conversation. But I do like the fact that we can pull in an in-house expert from anywhere in our business in real time, mid-session, and they can just join in seconds, which is great. Also, meeting arrivals and departures, they're completely non-invasive. A camera blinks on or a camera blinks off. That's great. There's no gathering of coffee cups and pencils and notes and saying ta-ra and I'll see you in the next meeting. Also, resources being shared live in the chat window is cool as well. Collaborative documents. So I do hope it works. For those that culturally are bought into it at the provider end, then the suppliers would love to keep working like this. It doesn't mean we're not going to pop up and see you for coffees and catch-ups throughout the duration anyway, but certainly for implementation, we haven't seen a downside. So we hope it'll continue working in remote working for all those that wish to.
Excellent. How well does it work solving problems remotely, getting people explaining issues or talking through solutions?
Yeah, I think you touched on this in your presentation as well. It is definitely a challenge. This is a new way of working. I think very few organizations, especially in HE, were expert at remote meetings. I think the traditional route or methodology was bring the supplier in, do everything in a room, and let supplier go away and do things. So, and that included face-to-face problem solving. So we had a challenge where face-to-face would be natural first choice. But I think in order for everyone to communicate more effectively, we are finding that greater care is taken. And so everybody is taking care to explain things in clearer language, very clear and plain diagrams, and real life examples. And I think sometimes that's better than would otherwise be the case with face-to-face. So, and one dynamic I've observed in previous face-to-face meetings is the nod of approval. And so we get some stakeholders in a room in attendance, and their nod of approval, I've noticed, is just masking their uncertainty over speaking up and saying, actually, Dom, no, I don't get it. Make it clearer, please. Now, when this happens, individuals remotely, physically raising their hand on the camera, originally maybe because the moderator is muting you, so there's not a great big bun fight of audio. But that I'm finding people are much happier to raise their hand and ask a question. And I often try and get things going by explaining and demonstrating fairly quickly that out of all the people in the meeting, I will be asking my famous silly questions. And that really breaks the ice and makes it acceptable for other stakeholders on the meeting to say, well, actually, Dom, I'm not sure what you used there. You used some clever technical term or an acronym that we're not familiar with. Stop and explain, please. So I think the problem, we're all aware of the problem of clarity, and I think everybody we've been with addresses it really well. And I think we get better clarity overcoming the challenge than we would assuming people in the room are all cool with everything. Very often half of them aren't.
Excellent. How do you run your customer engagement meetings during lockdown? And do you think this will change afterwards?
Okay, this is slightly different, I think. So we run what are called user group meetups, and they happen 4 times a year. So in 2 weeks' time, we run our 24th meetup. And this is where all the universities come together. And traditionally, pre-COVID, one university would decide to host. Everybody comes in from all the other universities, takes a train into London, for example, if it's a London uni hosting, and then it's held in a room. Now, our next one in 3 weeks' time will be our second one where we are hosting instead of a client hosting, and it's delivered via Zoom. So we deliver in advance some homemade cookies, bits and pieces to each participant's home, so they can have a nibble at what would traditionally be a break time halfway through. And I'm not sure, but I do think that users will probably want to go back to hosting at each member university. It's really collaborative, and I think that collegiate feel surprised me many years ago when each university said, no, I'm from Uni A. I really will teach somebody from Uni B. In a commercial world, are they potentially a competitor? I suppose you could say they were, but there's such a collegiate feeling within the group that actually being in the same room, they love that. So they make new friendships, they buzz around the buffet lunch. I'll follow the user group members' lead on this, but I actually prefer to be in the room for the user group meetups. It's a lower key, more celebratory Q&A type session about where the product's going and how the unis are enjoying or not enjoying using the product. So I think it'll be 50-50, more in favor, I think, of sandwiches and chocolates on campus. That's where I think it'll be.
I'm always in favour of sandwiches and chocolate.
Me too.
Just as a follow-up to that, do you think with those sorts of sessions that there will be a more blended approach, maybe letting some people attend remotely, whereas others maybe turn up?
I think you're quite right, Martha. In the past, you either were in and you were counted in for buffet planning, or you were out. So now I think you're quite right that there will be those who actually prefer to stay at home or simply can't allow the travel to and from when you're traveling all over the country, because our unis are spread all over the UK. Yeah, we've got a couple down in the West Country who I definitely think would rather we posted them their cookies and they could attend remotely. And yeah, lovely, we'll have them up on a big screen in the meeting room. I think it's a brilliant idea. Blended would be superb.
Well, I'm going to look forward to cookies.
Okay, instead of curly sandwiches. Huh?
What is the one takeaway you'd like every university watching this to get from the session?
Good question. Well, putting a CRM into a university is without doubt a complicated undertaking, but it doesn't need to be high risk. So I think it's worth bearing in mind that every challenge that we will face, that anyone will face during a CRM implementation, is likely to have already been faced and solved before by our team. Okay, we've had dozens of universities and we have literally millions of students and applicants going through our system all the time. So it might be a particular challenge for some stakeholder group within your team, but we're likely to be able to suggest one or two alternative ways to solve it. So biggest challenges that normally try to throw a project off would be delays, last minute changes, overriding priorities internally within the university. The biggest one, and no one's found an easy way around this, is where your key university resources suddenly get diverted at the last minute to deal with an emergency issue suddenly on campus or in the IT. There's something big happening. All the people that we thought were attending this morning have left for 2 days to do something else. So we've got experience in seeing those occur and routing around them as well. So I suppose the one takeaway is that the confidence, and there's very little new under the sun. It just gets communicated to us, I suppose, in new and exciting ways. We do have the answers and you do get the outcome you seek. So yeah, I would say confidence in approaching a project. It does get done on a regular basis and it does work very smoothly.
Excellent. Thank you, Dom. Okay, so I guess if anyone has put any questions through, we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, so this is one for both of you, so it'd be great to hear from Martha first. If you were to run the project again or a project again, what would you do differently?
Oh, I think certainly I would start setting up the project infrastructure a little bit earlier. So we were a little bit late in coming to setting up the SharePoint site, and I think if we'd set it up earlier and actually kept more of the materials from right from the get-go in that one place, I think that would have made things a little bit easier, certainly for getting other people on board. It was a bit of a catch-up trying to work out where was that email and where was that document and where was this, and trying to get it all together. So I think certainly next time I would immediately start by having that infrastructure in place before I did anything else. Dom, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I do. Certainly the most important document in the project paperwork for us is what we call our P3, the stakeholder priorities. And this is a document that can always be fine-tuned and added to. So as a planning document, it's a list of the priorities raised by certain stakeholder groups. And we ask each stakeholder to say when a deliverable that matters to them specifically needs to be implemented. And more importantly for us, we need to understand the effects of missing those deadlines. So that can always be updated and improved. That would be the thing that I would say, that as long as we can keep our eyes on that, that stakeholders get new challenges, demands throughout the project. That should not be a static document signed off at sort of month -2 and then we all follow it. So regularly checking in with stakeholders, say, has anything new and scary happened that is going to affect the deliverables? You might need to bring something forward by 3 weeks. That perhaps there is a forcing function outside of the university that must be met and it's just been added to your team. So that, I think, is the biggest thing, is to stay in touch with the changes for each stakeholder group.
We've certainly had a lot of new and scary in the last year.
We have, all of us have, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, enough to last a lifetime, I think. Someone has said that they recommend Miro, that's M-I-R-O, for collaborative project working. They just say here you can use post-its and flow charts, etc. But also someone's asking about remote workshopping, you know, and they're suggesting, would it be worth staff onboarding training workshops? So again, promoting tools like Miro can be used to collaboratively work with teams. So do you think that would be something that we should probably do more in our staff training, is doing this kind of remote workshopping staff?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. We haven't yet considered what new skills a new member of staff might need. We've all kind of had to learn things as we've gone along. So yeah, I think certainly I'll check out that Miro. That sounds interesting. But yeah, I think having a list of tools that you expect people to be able to use to work effectively remotely and offering training on those, I can see that being really important going forward. And certainly something that's another thing to add to my list of things to do after this project. But yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Dom, have you done much in the way of that?
Well, from the supplier's point of view, we are quite happy to remain fairly system and platform and software agnostic. So if you say, Dom, I'd like you to use tools ABC, whilst in some other implementations we're using tools D, E, and F, that's absolutely fine. We'll flex. The reason we are platform and tool agnostic is because the only thing that matters for us is the underlying objective and the deliverable. The method by which we get there and the tools we play with, and there are some brilliant sketching, very visual tools that we can play with. They don't need to be embedded necessarily within Teams, for example. They can be a link in chat to open a web window, and then we can all whiteboard and sketch and drag things around. I think they're brilliant. And yes, sessions at the whiteboard have always been great fun. Well, I'll certainly look that up. If someone could send over a link or maybe put a link in chat afterwards, I'll look at that one. But yeah, I think my one bit of advice there would be, let's not remain wedded to one ecosystem. It doesn't have to be a Microsoft tool. It can be anything, as long as we can all share it live and watch the cursors and the widgets and the pens whiz around. Brilliant. Yeah, I love visual whiteboarding. It's cool during any remote session. Yeah.
Yeah. No, same here. About celebrating milestones, Martha, someone said that obviously remotely it's very hard, so fingers crossed if we ever get to a hybrid future, you know, those are the kind of things that you can do in a face-to-face meeting. But someone has asked, how did you celebrate your milestones?
Well, we generally, if something nice has happened, we have had a Teams call and we've just celebrated and maybe toasted with a drink or something. I think at the moment we've almost got a massive list of stuff we're saving up to celebrate once we can actually get back into the office. So I don't know if we're going to do it as all one great big party or lots of little ones. I don't know. But I think there is that sense of we're sort of saying, oh, this is really great. Let's celebrate soon. So
Martha, from what I hear about how Future Work celebrates success, I'm going to suggest you keep that to a Friday.
Yes, that is an excellent idea, Dom.
We actually have occasionally, when we want to celebrate either a milestone win or a contract close acceptance win, we actually have a virtual pub. So we finish 15 minutes early on a Friday, and everyone brings their own tipple, and we have an online Zoom, and we are our own barman and customers. So yeah, with all cameras on, the whole team on screen, we have our little favourite tipple, and we have technically 15 minutes of work time, and then as much as you want after that. Yeah, we try and have a virtual pub. Thank goodness on 16th of April, the restaurant and bar next door to our office opens, and I've booked it. We can't wait.
I like the idea of a virtual pub.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm stealing that one.
Yes, I think we'll be doing that. Certainly as a committee, I think we should do that as well. I think I've got a question about, I think you're right, Dom, that you mentioned about your user groups. You know, although it's great doing them online, because obviously more people can attend because, you know, cost of travelling, but the collegiate sort of working, seeing each other in a room has been missed. So certainly I think from my perspective, I do hope we can have a hybrid for certain, you know, for our service, our user groups. So that's just my sort of, you know, things I've noticed in this new normal.
Yeah, I think so, Catherine. And wouldn't it be lovely if catering can come in without wearing their blue gloves and masks, and if we can just get back to crumbling bits of cookie off one corner of and eating like the regular human beings we are. So that would be great. But no, I think Martha's suggestion of blended is brilliant. I think we will maybe double the numbers of a traditional user group meetup. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
certainly one user group I think we're involved in at my institution. I think they're doing almost like we'll do a couple online and then at least one will actually meet in person, which I think is a good way.
Yeah, very good idea indeed.
Yeah.
That's going on a post-it.
Yes, lots of post-its. Okay, so I think we've gone through. Oh no, I think we've missed one. Let me just check. Oh no, someone has published the link now to that Miro.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you.
Yes. So one last question is from David from CSVPA. As a small institution, Martha, oh, you went with Student CRM. So they're just asking who the supplier was.
Yes, Student CRM.
Yes, thank you. Sorry there. So just in closing, are there anything else you'd like to add, Martha or Dom?
I guess just summing up by it is possible to run projects remotely and do it successfully. It takes a bit more planning and a bit more thought, and certainly a lot more communication. But you can get things up and running and working.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Martha. And from our perspective, one of the ways a supplier like us at Student CRM, we measure our productivity is we try and reduce what is called rework. And rework is the amount of time we go back over something that we built or customized, following use, real world use, and then it finds out maybe the requirements weren't that tightened down to begin with. So we are seeing a visible reduction, a noticeable reduction in the amount of rework because of the care taken up front on what Martha's explained as being more diligence with the specification. So the rework has dropped down, so you actually get a faster final sign-off thanks to there being a big in rework. That's a big bonus for both parties.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Unless there's any more questions going to come in, that's it from the group. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks ever so much. Thanks, Martha and Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you.